We will see all the footage and pictures that I got of rattlesnakes in this video. We're going to start with some of the highly variable in color and pattern rattlesnakes that I filmed, starting with the Banded Rock Rattlesnake. The incredible thing about rock rattlesnakes and even some of these other highly variable rattlesnakes we'll see is that their color and pattern is based on their environment, the type of rocks and the type of habitat that they surround. I believe I was finally able to capture the pink coloration that's on this one, and that's indicative of certain mountain ranges like the Davis Mountain where individuals have this pink coloration. And what I love about them is that gray with the black bands and the modeling that you see, and that leads to another common name, the mottled rock rattlesnake. Now, the rock rattlesnake's a relatively small species of rattlesnake, reaching lengths of about 2 foot in length in babies. They are not only super small, but they have a yellowish greenish tipped tail, similar to those of the genus Echistrodon, the copperheads and cottonmouths. And they use that tail for caudal luring, which is a way to attract prey, so they wiggle it around like a food item. Think of a worm, for instance, and that attracts small frogs, small lizards, and lizards are actually their primary prey item. But as babies, being so small, have been known to eat insects as well. Isn't that amazing? And they'll eat small rodents as well, so it's not just lizards that they'll eat, but that is their primary food source. Awesome snakes, and there's a few different subspecies, but the one you're seeing here is the nominate species, Crotalus lepidus, but we'll also see a picture of Crotalus lepidus klebari. But I want to know what you think of the rock rattlesnake, and let me know if you're able to see the pink coloration that I was talking about. And I encourage you to look them up and see how variable their pattern and coloration is. Some are so incredible, and the most fascinating part, in my opinion, is it's again all based on their environment, the habitat. And this is the picture of the subspecies klebari. Now the next highly variable in color and pattern is the speckled rattlesnake. And looking at the base coloration, you can see it's kind of tannish brown. Well, some speckled rattlesnakes are kind of bluish in coloration, some are kind of pinkish in coloration, and most amazing of all, white. Isn't that unbelievable? A white rattlesnake? Well, if you haven't seen what one looks like, look up white speckled rattlesnake. And again, it's based on the type of environment that the individual's found in. It's so amazing, and to me, the white speckled rattlesnakes are the most beautiful. I've only ever seen 2 in person, and they were little babies. You may have noticed how small the rattle is on this individual, and that's because the rattle broke off, unfortunately. But for that reason, let's discuss a common myth, that you can tell the age of a rattlesnake by counting the number of segments on the rattle. When a rattlesnake is born, they have what's known as a pre-button. When they shed within that first week of life, they gain a button. If they vibrate their tail at this point, there's still no sound. When they shed again, they gain a segment. So each time a rattlesnake sheds their skin, they gain a segment. So babies growing, they shed multiple times a year, gaining a segment each time. That already shows you that that is a myth. But another thing, like mentioned with the speckled rattlesnake, they can break off as they're moving through the environment. But since that little explanation cut into the next snake, which is the timber rattlesnake, let's go over the variability in these. Now this is a black phase timber rattlesnake. There's about 3 color phases: black, tannish, and greenish. When the pictures are being shown, you'll see a tannish phase timber. But even within one color phase, there's still variability. So the black phase timber rattlesnake, some you can barely even see the pattern. They're that dark. Some have almost orange down the back. As you can see with this one, it's kind of brownish and it's really faint. But some, it's very vibrant. And those are my personal favorite, the very dark ones with the orange pattern in between. So cool. You can see the chevron patterns. And another thing is the canebrake rattlesnake, which used to be a subspecies of the timber rattlesnake, are now just one species. So there's no longer a subspecies. And what that means is that the variability in color and pattern now is increased. Some canebrakes have pinkish in them. Some are even high white. Now the first 2 species we saw, the rock rattlesnake and the speckled rattlesnake, are relatively small species, especially compared to the timber rattlesnake. Some canebrakes have been found close to 6 feet, if not more than 6 foot long. That's incredible, isn't it? Another fascinating thing is that not only do snakes vary in color and pattern based on the environment, but some populations will have different venom components. With the timber rattlesnake, some are highly neurotoxic, and what that is usually related to is the type of prey in that area and also even the environment as well. So with terrestrial vipers, those that live on the ground, they'll bite and release after envenomating the prey. That avoids them getting hurt, and then they'll track down the prey item and eat it once it passes. But in an environment where the prey can run off and hide, having a fast-acting neurotoxic venom will eliminate the chance of the prey item getting to a place where the snake can't get to. So you see how amazing these animals are in many aspects, not only the difference in color and pattern, but also the difference in venom, based both on the prey and the environment in that location. It's just mind-blowing to me. Now here's that tannish phase timber rattlesnake. Wow. And this is a western diamondback rattlesnake. Now unlike all of the other ones we've seen so far, this one does not vary that much based on coloration and pattern. Of course there can be slight differences in color, but not drastic like the others. Western diamondback rattlesnakes get large as well. Just like the timber rattlesnake, some can be 5 foot or more. Wow. I want you to take a look at the pattern on the tail of western diamondbacks, that raccoon colored white and black, especially when we see the next species of rattlesnake, which has a similar but different pattern on the tail that leads to confusion between the two at times. There is one aspect of the western diamondback rattlesnake that does lead to more variation in color and pattern than the other snakes that we previously saw, but it's not necessarily natural. What on earth am I talking about? When any animal reproduces, there's always a chance of a random mutation that may even express itself visually. So naturally this can occur. Think of albino for an example. Albino snakes have been found out in the wild. Well, in captivity, you're able to manipulate and pair snakes with certain genetics, resulting in these morphs. Albino, melanistic, patternless, even scaleless. And this has all been done with western diamondback. The western diamondback rattlesnake is like the ball python of the rattlesnake world. So many different mutations, so many different patterns, lack of patterns, different colors. So that's why I mentioned not necessarily natural, because even though it can occur in the wild, it's not like it is in captivity where there's selective breeding to produce these offspring that have these genetic mutations. Was that confusing or what? Now here is the next snake, the Mojave Rattlesnake. You see that tail? When you compare both the pattern on the body and the tail, you can see how there can be confusion with the western diamondback rattlesnake. But there are some differences. You see the black banding doesn't really go all the way around, and the lighter coloration is much more gray than white. Now I did turn the volume down a bit, especially since there's rattling in the background, but that being said, it's not this Mojave rattlesnake rattling. This Mojave rattlesnake in particular I've been working with for over 10 years and I've never heard rattle once. And this actually leads to another theory about some wild rattlesnakes. So the purpose of a rattle is to warn big-hoofed animals where they are so they don't get stepped on. Also to hopefully deter potential predators. And even back to the random mutations. If there is a random mutation out in the wild that is advantageous to the survival of a species, it'll be passed on to other offspring. And we can even see this working firsthand with rattlesnakes that now live on islands. The Santa Catalina Island rattlesnake has no big-hoofed predators on that island. There was no need for a rattle anymore. So over time, they now lost the rattle. It's just a little nub now. Amazing, right? Well, back to that theory. People theorize that the rattle is now backfiring by giving out their location, leading to the loss of their life. Think about people. People don't like snakes, so if a rattlesnake is giving out its location, leading to the loss of its life, you could see how possibly over time those that have the trait to not rattle, such as this Mojave rattlesnake, may be passed on. And over time, more and more rattlesnakes will not rattle. Does that make sense? Here are a few pictures of other rattlesnakes that I didn't film. So the Venezuelan, the prairie rattlesnake, and here's an eastern diamondback rattlesnake. And we were talking about size of rattlesnakes earlier. This is the largest rattlesnake on earth. The eastern diamondback reaches lengths of 7 foot to even 8 foot. Amazing. This is a northern Pacific rattlesnake. Look at this. This one is incredible in my opinion. So we did talk about the northern Pacific rattlesnake when I went over a few of the snakes we filmed over at Colin's house. But there's ontogenetic variation, so a change over time from baby to adult. What that means in the case of the northern Pacific rattlesnake is that Babies have this very beautiful and highly defined pattern, but over time into adulthood that tends to change, becoming much more faint. The pattern much darker. But this one, even though it's an adult, look at that pattern. There's orange in it. I know it doesn't pick up well, but this is by far, still to this day, my favorite northern Pacific rattlesnake I've ever seen. An adult, that is. The babies are just incredible, but adult-wise, this is the most beautiful. To me, that is. And the southern Pacific rattlesnake, which is actually a different species, is one of the ones that's most studied about the difference in venom based on the populations. Those that live in environments that are more open have primarily hemotoxic venom. Those that live in rocky areas have primarily neurotoxic venom. And again, that's due to being able to subdue prey quicker before they're able to hide and pass away in an area that the snake can't get to. And I forgot to mention during the Mojave Rattlesnake is that they're believed to have the most toxic venom of the rattlesnakes due to the presence of neurotoxins. Now I've went over my ranting again into the next snake, and that is the Mexican West Coast Rattlesnake. So in this video we saw the largest species of rattlesnake, although it was just a picture, the Eastern Diamondback Rattlesnake. But now we've seen a few contenders to the second longest. The Mexican West Coast Rattlesnake can get quite large, 6 foot or more. But also, like I mentioned, some Western Diamondback rattlesnakes can reach close to that length. Some canebrake rattlesnakes have reached that length. So depending on who you talk to, some may say the Western Diamondback Rattlesnake's the second longest. Some may say the Mexican West Coast. Some may even say the canebrake rattlesnake. The Mexican West Coast Rattlesnake, this one is quite young. You see how vibrant that pattern is? Over time, it will turn much more green. So that's another case, like a lot of snakes that have ontogenetic variation. Baby to adulthood, a little slight change in pattern and color. And I can't wait to see how this one turns out. But I hope y'all enjoyed seeing all these rattlesnakes. I still have some footage of some other vipers and a lot of cobras. So stay tuned for those. Click like, click subscribe, click the bell. And a very big shout out to my channel members. If you'd like to support further than a like or a subscribe, become a channel member. Get early access to videos, exclusive videos, and a shout out at the end. Big shout out to my Patreon members as well. If you'd like to support me over there, you also get early access to videos, exclusive videos, and a shout out at the end. And a big thank you to those that donate in other ways. I hope y'all learned something in this video. Comment down below which was your favorite. I just love them all. Picking a favorite's just too hard. Love y'all.